Tables and seats are now on sale for the biggest night in the digital video calendar, the TellyCast Digital Video Awards. We're celebrating excellence in the only awards ceremony created especially for the social video industry, with over 100 channels, shows and series shortlisted across 27 categories. It all takes place on the evening of 5th of June during South by Southwest London Week at the luxurious Londoner Hotel in Leicester Square. The guest list reads like the who's who in the next generation of entertainment. So book your table, half table or seat now and join the talent and executives shaping the content industry of tomorrow. Just visit digitalvideoawards.co.uk to secure your place now. The TellyCast Digital Video Awards, the biggest night in the digital video calendar. We'll see you there. Hi, I'm Justin Crosby and welcome to another TellyCast. On this week's show, I'm joined by one of the UK's most original digital creators, Max Fosh. Known for his ingenious YouTube videos that blur the line between comedy, stunts, social experiment and satire, Max has built a loyal fan base of over 6 million subscribers across platforms by pushing the boundaries of what's possible online. From running for London Mayor to launching his own fake airline. With a flair for high-concept storytelling, Max brings a fresh perspective on content creation, brand building, and how to thrive in the fast-evolving world of social video. For more videos featuring the movers and shakers of the content industry, just search for TellyCast TV on YouTube and hit subscribe. Okay, let's get into it. Max, welcome to TellyCast.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's great to have you here. I love what you've been doing in recent years, and I want to hear the story.
Yeah, the whole story from the very beginning.
The Max Fosh story, yeah. So when did you start making videos? Was it YouTube originally, and what led you to do that?
No, initially it was Facebook. It was the heady days of 2017 where, YouTube was obviously massive, but I kind of was uploading my videos for some reason onto Facebook. I mean, I had spent 3 years at university wanting to be a radio presenter, and
Right.
I'd worked in hospital radio, student radio, and done all that kind of thing. And I thought I should probably have a video arm to my to my broadcasting.
Yeah.
So I started a show at university called Street Smart, where I was at Newcastle University and famous for nights out and lots of drinking.
The big market.
Big market.
Yeah.
So I grabbed a camera, grabbed a microphone and a willing friend to hold said camera and just walked out into Big Market outside the clubs and just asked for anybody to
That's brave.
come have a chat with me. I mean, it was done on weekday nights. It was not locals. It was more, posh public school boys who were kind of living their best northern lives. So that's kind of how it started. And as I said, I was uploading all the videos onto Facebook, mainly because I was kind of looking. I mean, I couldn't quantify it in these words back then, but it was more a relationship engagement where there was all the tagging, all the sharing was being done by people that I had existing relationships with or mutual friends with.
Yeah.
Because it would be like, atting you, Justin, for you were in one of the videos. I can't believe you said that about X or Y. Yeah. And so it was a very kind of collegiate, into university, intramural kind of thing. And so I was doing this for about a year on Facebook, just, I just would post a video once a week onto Facebook and slowly would start to get a little bit of traction. And I mean 200-300 views at a time. And so I did that for a year. I graduated university. I didn't really know what I was going to do. And I was working in a pub in London, and I kind of had a small network of people who I knew were also making videos. And a friend of mine at the time called Zach, he pitched me an idea about whether I thought it was a good idea to break into London Fashion Week. And I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. So we went to Primark and we dressed me up in stupid clothing. We had like marigold gloves that we snipped the fingers off. We got plastic packaging tape from Amazon parcels and put it around my neck like an Elizabethan ruff. And we then went to where the shows were happening at London Fashion Week, and we had two friends that had cameras with the flash, and we got them to trigger the flash as I kind of turned up and start shouting my name, which caused all the paparazzi to like swivel their head, think that I was somebody important, and they all rushed over and started taking pictures of me, which then got it onto Getty Images, which we then leveraged to get invited to shows and after parties. And we kind of made a whole video about this experiment and this kind of stunt. and it was all put onto Zach's channel, but kind of overnight it hit 2 or 3 million views, and I think now it's on about 30 million long form views on YouTube. And so that meant that I went from genuinely about 800 subscribers to 100,000 in about 2 weeks.
Wow.
So as I say, I was uploading all the stuff onto Facebook at this point, and I was putting stuff onto YouTube as a bit of an afterthought. And so, we uploaded that, it just exploded, and suddenly I had this audience who could watch all of the old videos that I had been putting up in the background for the last 18 months that would been getting 20 views. And so suddenly the audience started watching that, and then I've kind of grown it from there. And so that was February 2019. And so 6 years down the line, I've just slowly been chipping away and trying to grow the audience. And the stuff that I've made over that time has slightly changed and shifted, but ultimately it's all been within that core of kind of fun and silliness and japery, as I like to call it.
And so that experience of that one video, that really sort of set the course for where you are now. And it's remarkable that that sort of kick-started your whole approach to making videos.
Yeah, it was the quote unquote big break. It was the first, if you enact the first role in something substantial. But I, had spent 3 or 4 years working on like my broadcasting, my presenting, my entertainment style in radio and hospital radio, and then had also made videos for about 18 months. So I knew how to edit. I knew, I kind of knew what I was doing. And I always say that it wouldn't have kicked on in that way if I hadn't had that background and I hadn't had that kind of library of work for people to go and look at and watch to further deepen the connection. We're like, oh, I think I like watching this guy. Let's see what else he's got. And so I think often creators are very, very concerned about what that one video is going to be that's going to cause them to blow up, but they need the back catalogue of things for that to be sustained.
So over these years since that particular video that went viral, I mean, what surprised you most then in terms of making your clips and making your longer form content? What surprised you most about that journey from then to now?
What I'm making, really, I think often kind of people think, okay, this is the route that I'm going to go down, and this is what I'm going to make. But it's never linear. It's a constant zigzag. You're constantly just kind of pushing the boundaries in a certain direction. If it doesn't work, you go back to the status quo. And over time, like it's changed remarkably. I first started out doing vox pop stuff, like interview stuff. I thought it was going to be man on the street, Billy on the street-esque kind of things. And now, I've just wrapped on a video where I cooked a meal using lightning. So, I mean, it's a very unpredictable path that YouTube has taken me on. But also it's interesting now to see YouTube as a world which is very much like the early years of television, where the propensities to what you want to create is completely down to you. There's very few barriers to entry or exit. There's no real bureaucracy as to, what's the brand values of this thing. It's like, I want to make this and let's just do it. And that's kind of one of the reasons I love YouTube. You can make things for YouTube's sake, which I feel like has been lost massively in the mainstream. Often, if I'm ever having kind of conversations with people from, linear channels or programs, the question I always get, the dreaded question is, but why are you saying this? What's the reason? What's the message behind? And I'm a huge advocate being like, just do it because it's fun. Yeah. Like audiences really don't care that much about what deeper points you're making. I think people in linear tradition have got very, very serious about, we need to be making a serious point at every opportunity and changing the world. No, you're an entertainment, make something that people can titter at and talk to their friends down at the pub about, and then kind of move on.
Yeah, I mean, I loved one of your recent videos about the horse. You got a horse to help you bet.
Yeah, I trained a racehorse to bet on horse racing because I thought maybe they might have an advantage. Spoiler, they don't at all. But yeah, like that was just a case. I thought it'd be quite funny to see a racehorse in a bet, Fred. And that's how I managed to make it happen. So yeah, there was no deeper meaning behind that video whatsoever.
I can't believe you actually got to take the racehorse into the betting shop.
Yeah, we had to. There was a little bit of permissions behind the scenes stuff, but ultimately it was a lot of kind of walking up to different shops, be like, "Can we come in?" Until eventually one were like, "Yeah, I think so." I don't know why you can't. As long as the horse doesn't kind of crap on the carpet, I think we'll be fine.
So talk us then. I mean, I mean, is there there must be a process, right?
Yeah.
Because talk us through that sort of ideation process of coming up with an idea and say, okay, how are we going to make this happen?
Yeah, so with YouTube, it's slightly different to kind of TikTok and other forms of social media and social media platforms, because YouTube is very active viewing. So the audience needs to decide and choose that they want to watch something. Whereas, other algorithmic based content platforms, Instagram and TikTok, it's more fed to you. And so you've kind of got to hook them in within the first 2 or 3 seconds. But YouTube, it's all about your title and thumbnail. So I kind of look at your title and your thumbnail as kind of like your shop window, or like the storefront to a restaurant. So you've got to make it look as inviting as possible. And it almost doesn't matter about the quality of the food really at that point, because they haven't tasted it. If your friend says, oh, there's a little shop down there, it's got the best food I've ever had, but the outside of it looks run down, dilapidated and dirty, you're probably going to take a few attempts, be told, no, it's really, really good before you step inside. But if you walk up to a shop front and it looks amazing and glistening and clean, you're like, yeah, of course, I'll give this a go. So with the ideation, it's so much about the title and the thumbnail. That is the most important thing for the video.
Are you thinking about search at that point, or are you thinking about purely what's going to grab people?
Purely about what's going to grab people. Search is kind of dead, really, as a medium, because the recommendation feature is so strong, and that's how consumers use the platform, through recommended searches. So you go onto the homepage and you kind of peruse what you want to see. So I'm not thinking about buzzwords or anything like that or hashtags for the search bar, not at all. It's more like, okay, what sentence will cause someone to stop scrolling. And that often comes from just juxtaposition, right? So taking one thing that everybody knows and doing the complete opposite thing with it, but still make it make sense. So I filmed a video where I cooked a ready meal in a volcano, right? So cooking a meal is a very common concept we all understand. Microwave, oven. Could you cook it in something very hot? Lava. So there's an inherent...
It's extremes, right?
It's extremes, yeah. It's superlative scale, small thing into big thing. I've wanted to do a video for a long time where I water ski behind a cruise ship, right? That's just the most visual example of superlative scale. So if you can get a title that either poses a question or makes somebody laugh, and then combine it with a thumbnail that is interesting, then you're kind of really onto a winner there. And then once you've got them through the front door, you need to make sure that first 30 seconds is interesting and grabby. So in YouTube, we always kind of say the title is what, the thumbnail is how, and then the first 30 seconds is why. So what are you doing? Thumbnail should give you a bit of an information about how you're going to do it, and in the first 30 seconds you've got to present a rationale as to why you're going to do it. And again, it doesn't need to be some deeper meaning. It can just be because I think this is funny and silly and stupid. But those are the 3 kind of areas that we look at when we're making a video.
And obviously YouTube is your main platform, if you like, but you've got 1.5 million TikTok followers and I think 500,000 on Insta. When you're coming up with this idea, is it YouTube first for you?
It's always YouTube first. Yeah. It's always YouTube first. And then we will then look to clip up the story within 60 seconds and post it onto Instagram and TikTok. But I mean, long form YouTube is where the profitability is. That's really how, as creators, you can really keep building and go bigger and bigger and bigger, as if you get long form views. I mean, I've got 1.5 million followers on TikTok, and I've been posting on there, 1.2 actually. I've been posting on there for about 4 or 5 years, and I think I've made in total from just ad revenue about £15,000.
Right.
So
millions and
millions of views. So short form now is very much discovery, and long form is kind of where you're looking to convert them to. So often the end of the short form video will be a teaser to kind of suggest that they go over to the long form. But it's very, very hard to do that. A lot of creators I see is like, oh, I'm going to focus on my short form to get them onto long form. I don't think that's a good idea. I think if you want to get into long form, then you should be making long form videos, but you might as well use that footage as a billboard.
So it's more about awareness. I mean, it's a trailer, or it's more of an awareness process for YouTube, because you're asking people to, get out of TikTok and then go into YouTube. And so it's like...
That doesn't really happen.
It doesn't work, right?
And even on YouTube have done a very good job. YouTube Shorts has been incredibly successful for YouTube themselves, and they've put a feature in where you can link a long form video to a short. And we do it every single time, and there's very little crossover just because the viewing habits of the individuals are just so different.
Yeah.
If you're watching a short, you're just going to keep going through and keep watching shorts, and so moving over to long form is pretty rare.
So talking about formats and the long form formats that you create, they're incredibly well thought out and almost TV-like in its format with the voiceovers and the way it's presented. I mean, what do you make of this crossover now? Because we're at a really interesting point now where the likes of Netflix and a lot of major streaming platforms and broadcasters are looking to talent like you and the success that you've had, and looking to bring that into their ecosystem, which has worked to varying different degrees of success. Where do you stand on that? Because, clearly you don't need TV, but do you harbour ambitions to do more in TV?
I think it's funny. I've just turned 30 and I grew up watching TV. And so there's still probably from an egotistical perspective, like a desire to be on the telly in some perspective. But I'm probably the minority amongst my peers online. Like, I have creator mates of mine who have absolutely no ambitions to be on television whatsoever because, there's a great creator in the States called Mark Rober who was he was working with Jimmy Kimmel and doing a show for Discovery, and he was kind of saying, okay, hold on, so you want me to do a show on TV where I will have less creative control, fewer people will see it, and I'll make less money. Oh boy, where do I sign up? So there is still that element in some areas of linear. I still think traditional has a really strong space in reality. Creators are slowly starting to be able to create shows from a reality perspective, but still, traditional still has like the grapple hold on that. Sports, for example, you can't really get creators to create sport related content. But entertainment, for example, I think TV and linear is really going to be struggling, mainly because there's a lot of, I think what's slightly happened over time is there's been a lot of fat that has been added to productions, and as a result, it's insanely unprofitable. I've been on shoots where I kind of look around and see the amount of people who are working, and I think I just don't understand how the maths is mathing, which is very, very like worrying to see just for people who work in this industry. And it's nice to see that creators are now taking creators are building production companies within their own right that are making their own stuff, and so. I think that the thing that TV is slightly doing wrong at the moment is I often get asked, oh, can you do your thing online, but on our telly channel, please? And I'm like, there is no incentive for me to do that whatsoever, because you'll tell me, oh, I can't do that because of XYZ, because of red tape, because of bureaucracy. And so I think harboring kind of creators more as talent is something where they can really thrive. And that's where the needle might be moving a little bit. But yeah, I think I would love to do something on telly just so I can tick the box and show, hey, Gran, look, did you see me on that thing? But I'm still very passionate that I have the opportunity to make what I want to make and when I want to do it. And that is just why I think, online is really, really important.
Want to get ahead in digital-first content? The Drop is the go-to newsletter for industry professionals, delivering insider news, trends, and insights straight to your inbox. Navigate the fast-changing landscape of digital-first production, distribution, and monetization. Sign up now for free at dropmedia.co.uk and stay informed with The Drop. Tell us about your production setup then. Have you got your own production company, and what does that look like on a typical shoot?
Yeah, I mean, I call it a production company. I guess we are a production company because we produce YouTube videos, but I've got full full-time staff, editors and producers and a writer, and then a couple more writers that I hire on a freelance basis for ideation. The biggest issue for me is ideation and ideas, and so that's the biggest bottleneck. So every 2 or 3 weeks I have, professional comic writers or theatre directors, people from various different worlds of the entertainment industry, bring them together. And it's kind of an old school fashion, like writer's room, where we'll kind of hone in on a sector, let's say America, and we'll come up with as many ideas as we can about America and just bounce it all off. And that's just, you know, a day of ideas. So I've got a team, and they're all full time, and we work out of an office, and it's very regimented. I think there might be a preconception of YouTubers or content creators as, you know, for a long time it was the work out of your bedroom narrative. Yeah. And a lot of creators do that, and they're insanely profitable and very successful. But I think there are also a lot of creators that have their own teams and productions. And, you know, there are companies in the UK that have YouTube channels with 30, 40, 50 people. And so there are lots of individual smaller production companies that are all popping up, that they're making their own stuff online.
It's really interesting that, you know, your overall approach and, you know, how lean it actually can be for the quality that you can produce. I mean, are your team, are they all digital native? Anybody for XTV or?
So, you know, the writers are definitely XTV and still current TV. You know, the writers I get in, you know, right on, you know, the last leg, Mock the Week or what it was still on. So they come from that world, but I've brought them into the TV world. And actually I really enjoy the shock, or not the shock, but the reaction on their faces when they kind of come into the YouTube space, because they're like, oh, this is great, this is fun. They're like, and literally any idea is a good idea. Let's just keep going. Let's keep pulling at that string. But in terms of the team that kind of edits and produces, they were all kind of like grads, really, that I hired like straight out and have fostered and learned from there. But I think there's a lot of amazingly talented people in TV who could do incredible work in the digital space as well. So it's not just a case of, oh, you've worked at TV, that's a dark stain against your name. But instead, you've got incredible knowledge and expertise to share. Come on in.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. We speak and we see the number of, I mean, I don't know what the latest figures are, but, you know, there's about 2/3, if not more, freelancers in the TV industry who've been out of work for months and months. And I think they're finding it very difficult to transition into the digital space. Yeah. But there are a lot of transferable skills, right? Yeah,
and I think to that end, there's slightly been, I think the big streamers, an element to answer for here. So if you take something like Amazon Video, who I think have said that they're not a profitable entity, but they're looking to funnel people into Amazon as a company, they will have huge budgets and therefore will be able to entice people in with huge budgets, huge day rates. And so therefore, kind of a lot of freelancers will then, like, that will be the day rate that they start setting, which then will just be too expensive for other areas. And so these big streamers have caused, I think, some freelancers to kind of price themselves out of other jobs, which I'm not sure what the solution is, but I think that the blame should lie a lot at the streamers who are making TV that they know is not profitable, but they don't really mind and they don't really care. And that has huge knockdown effects to the rest of the industry. Yeah. Because, you know, then smaller productions can't afford to bring on a huge number of people. And also the freelancers then suffer because they don't get as much work.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, because you've got technology companies, you've got shopping companies, you've got, you've even got sportswear companies now that are creating content, but, you know, not for content's sake, to drive different types of businesses and drive profitability. Yeah. And content is just probably quite a small budget in their overall sort of business plan.
So, yeah, and it's now we're seeing with the streamers actually. But what I think the streamers are doing fantastically well, and is very exciting for me from a creative perspective, is often traditionally stories were very much confined to 30-minute slots or 60-minute slots. And now something can be told in genuinely any length of time that you think it needs or deserves, which allows basically less. You know, often there might be in a video an idea that was really a 15-minute idea, but was kind of stretched to 30 minutes just for the sake of the advertisers. Now it can just be a 15-minute idea, and therefore that probably does improve the quality of a lot of the stuff, because, you know, production companies are not trying to squeeze out longer because they know they need to.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about business models then. I mean, your business model is fairly unique, I think, but I mean, essentially, you've just come off a worldwide comedy tour, stand-up tour.
Yeah.
So obviously, that's a major part of your business, and then there's a YouTube business. What about other areas that you're working in? Branded content, for example.
Yeah, so branded content, that will on the YouTube channel. The kind of two main revenue streams are AdSense, so ads that Google play before a video that we get a 50% cut of or 55% cut of, I can't remember. And then I will then go out and organize my own brand deals that I'll talk about a brand, but talk about TellyCast in my video for 60 seconds at a time. And that'll be a pure contract between myself and the brand.
And that's just a read.
And that's it's typical read that you get in podcasts.
Okay.
Often, brands are looking for more integrated ways. Sometimes it can be an entire video that's dedicated around a certain topic.
Yeah.
I did a video for Amazon and Fallout, for example, the new TV show Fallout, and so they wanted a video that was around the apocalypse, and so I came up with the concept, and so we charged more for that. But that's the YouTube side. Then the stand-up side is, I knew I had an audience there. I didn't really want to sell merch with t-shirts with my name on it, but I knew I could, start writing shows. So about kind of 6 or 7 years ago, I started standing on stage and trying to tell jokes, and slowly over time understood what I was good at and bad at on stage. And so the tour is another area. And then the third one is just kind of me as a talent for hire, going out, and whether that's ad campaigns for certain companies or presenting gigs. But the main brunt of it all comes from the channel. So if that channel isn't there, people aren't watching, therefore the audience isn't there to come to the stand up, and then I'm not valuable to the companies to present something. I need to make sure that core arm of the company is just creating YouTube content, because often you see with creators, as soon as they get very successful, they start veering into other areas of entertainment which didn't make them successful in the first place. So they oddly stop doing the thing that made them successful. And I think this is probably just the case in general as well. How many actors have we seen that suddenly want to be singers, or singers that suddenly want to be actors? I think that's just a trait of humanity, be like, oh, I'm done with that thing, let's try something else. But it's about trying to make sure that I'm still uploading to YouTube, because that is where the audience is, and that's where I need to make sure that most of my time is being spent.
And the stand-up, obviously YouTube is a global platform. Has that really led to your, international success when it comes to stand-up? I mean, is that, for example, you've been to Australia and New Zealand recently. Presumably you would have never been touring there without YouTube, right? Absolutely.
And that's what allows, I've just done, 75 dates in 14 different countries. And that's purely because of YouTube. And it's my demographic is 35% US based. So my audience is 35% US. And then, 10% here, 10% there, 10% there. And that is only as a result of YouTube. And being able to do shows in Sydney and, having 1,000 people there is just mind-blowing to me, thousands of miles away from home, all because they have a YouTube account and watch me on YouTube. So that's what has allowed the tour to be where it is. It's just because of the universality of YouTube, and they're doing things increasingly to try and support that. They're bringing in AI dubbing so that you can automatically dub your videos into different languages, and suddenly that opens up loads of different markets. I think only about 20-25% of YouTube is in English, which just kind of blows my mind when I hear that stat. So
when's that coming in? Because they've been talking about that for ages.
They have been talking about that for ages, and I think the issue at the moment is they're struggling to try and make it sound as natural as possible. It's still very much, you can tell that it's AI, but I don't imagine it's going to be very long until that changes.
We've seen recently, these huge creator studios being built, particularly in the States, but also we've obviously got Sidemen here and other big YouTube collectors. But then we've got companies like Darman Studios in the States and Dude Perfect and one or two others. I mean, from a business perspective, are you your own CEO, or do you employ a CEO in your company? I'm the
CEO, and I've very much kept it very small. I know around 2022, when kind of the word creator economy was really kind of the buzzword and everyone was talking about it, I know that some creators, brand deal sizes were massive, and everybody was like, I'm going to be the next Mr. Beast and be a tech CEO and have huge teams. And suddenly the outgoings went through the roof, and over the next subsequent years, a lot of them slightly stashed away. They realized they had to downsize. And so I think that burnt quite a lot of creators. I think it just depends what your goal is when you're going into content creation. Some people are very, very analytical and know, okay, if I do this, then this, then this, I will be able to make this or do this. I really have only ever done it because I love making things and being like having the opportunity and the propensity to do really silly stuff. So I've consciously not want to become a manager. So I've kept the team very lean, very small. And And, you know, I've spoken to US mates of mine. They're like, what are you doing? Like, there's so much missed opportunity here because you're not optimizing this and optimizing that. And I don't think that that's a particularly sensible long-term strategy, purely for your love of what you do, but also from a financial perspective. Yeah. Some creators have a real growth at all costs, and it works really well for them. But I kind of looked at what kind of personality I had and realized that that probably wasn't me. I'm not a particularly good businessman. I'm just probably quite good at my strengths lie in telling stories and kind of entertaining people.
And the reason why I asked that is I'm just thinking about all these different parts of your business. Do you start a year thinking, okay, this year I want to make X from this, I want to make X from that, I want to make X from the other? Or is it just a bit more, not hand to mouth, but is it a bit more, I'm just going to see where my creativity takes me, and then if I fancy this, then actually, yeah, I'll do another tour? Or from a business perspective, business and creativity don't necessarily go together. No. So I'm just wondering how that works when you're running this ship.
I'm definitely... Every year I have an AGM with the team, and that's more of a what's working for you guys, what's not working for you, what do you want to make as employees of this company, and get that creative led side from them. I also sit down with probably my agent and look at, you know, the amount of revenue that was brought into the company, what could be improved, but then from there, I might set an arbitrary number of like, okay, this is my goal in terms of revenue for this year. But if I don't hit it, then that's fine. And some things might be more profitable than you expect. And often there are deals that come in that genuinely you could never have expected. Yeah. You were on a list somewhere that suddenly said, oh, actually, this person would be great. And you know, there might be a big payday around the corner. So I know the costs, and I know how much I would like to live with my lifestyle, and then anything over the top there is you know, a bonus. And I was kind of talking to another creator about this, and we were talking about the difference between, you know, increasing your revenue by percentages, right? And he said, okay, what would you do with X more money? And I was like, oh, I'd probably just invest it. He was like, okay, so that's, you should be looking as like, would your life change? Not hugely. So if the point of doing all of this is just to increase the amount of investment, your investment portfolio, then what's really the point? So I am mainly looking at that, okay, right, is the business profitable? Can I pay my employees? Can I increase production size a little bit here? Great, I can do all of that. Then I'm happy, really.
And give us a sense of the cadence of the company then, in terms of how often you're publishing on YouTube. Because one of the things that Sam Barcroft said to me a few years ago, which I've always tried, not always, but tried to do, is be there, show up the same time every week, so your audience is expecting, you know, your content. How do you approach that? You know, is it weekly? Because your shows are a lot more complex, and there's so much more planning and production values around it. I mean, how does that work in terms of cadence?
So for individuals like that, so, you know, the Sidemen post every Sunday, Sidemen Sunday, and that has become incredibly valuable for their brand. But that's taken 8-9 years of uploading weekly to do that. So it's not a case of suddenly if you upload for 6 months every week on the same day, then suddenly everyone's going to know, oh, great. So I try and upload every 2 weeks. So I try to do around 25 videos a year, all different video ideas, you know, different concepts. But often, you know, for unforeseen production circumstances, things change. And so I've never really put myself into a position with the audience where I promise them, okay, there's going to be a video every 2 weeks or every week, because if you fail that once, then it's broken. So I think a lot of creators make promises that they know they probably can't keep, just because they think it sounds good and sounds splashy. But as soon as you ruin that trust once, then the audience is like, okay, fine. Also, I think the discoverability of and viewing habits of people is less, it's not as important. I think back when YouTube was very cyclical, and it's like you posted something, YouTube would serve that because you're subscribed, which would cause more subscriptions. YouTube is now a little bit more of a leap from where you're going into genres rather than individual creators. So if they watched an episode of TellyCast, they then might jump into another podcast or, you know, other area within the industry. So I don't think that uploading is on a you know, regular schedule is hard and fast, and you've got to die by that rule. But it's good to try. I make videos every 2 weeks. sometimes we make a video like the Cooking with Lightning video. We were in Spain in a lab that generates bolts of electricity, and then there was a national power cut. That's just something that I can't control. And so as a result, we had to delay that video, which was really, really frustrating. And so there are things like that happen. But I ultimately try to upload every 2 weeks.
Well, one of the reasons why I'm asking you about that is this whole concept of creator burnout. Because, and it sounds like your ideation process working with the writer's room, essentially. It sounds like a really smart approach because, once you start on that hamster wheel of needing to be there every week, I mean, what you're saying is be regular, but don't kill yourself to be there every week at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends what creator you are. Like, I'm very much an ideas-based creator. People really are interested in what silliness I'm getting up to, what big stunt I'm doing.
Yeah.
Whereas the Sidemen are, relationship-based creators. They want to hang out with them. They want to be their mate. They want to see what they're up to regardless of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so that means that if you are a relationship-based creator, you are able to upload probably more frequently because there's less storytelling structure that needs to go into it. It's more about, okay, let's just hang out with this person. So I'm very much on the ideas side. So it does require a lot of structure.
Yeah. So you mentioned stunts. Let's talk about a couple of your best known stunts. So the airport, welcome to.
Yes, welcome to Luton.
Welcome to Luton. Tell us about that one and how that came about.
I was a stolen idea, Justin. I'd seen a video, a news article from like 2004 of a guy in, I think Milwaukee. And he lived close to the airport. And so on his roof, he just wrote, "Welcome to Cleveland." And like there was a big news article and like, a segment on the news where the reporter went down and talked to him. And I watched it and I thought, that's silly. That was done 20 years ago and obviously made a splash in 2004. Surely it will be the same again. Could we have our own version? So I then looked around land around Heathrow, and there was no land available because obviously it's central London. I looked at Gatwick, thought, oh no, okay, there's farmland around Gatwick. So I knocked on doors of all the farmers around the runway until finally I met a family who said, yeah, sure, you can rent this strip of land.
A family with a sense of humor.
Yeah. I think they were part of a construction company, and they were just not using that bit of land. And so I think when I walked along and said, I'll pay you £4,000 for 6 weeks, they were like, sure. We weren't doing anything with it there anyway. So I rented the land off them. I then got loads of tarpaulin. I wrote "Welcome to Luton," stuck it down, a lot of hammering tent pegs into the ground, and then just waited. Like, I didn't know whether it was going to work, whether anyone could see it from the planes. You could see the planes coming into land, but you didn't really know like what the view was like out of that window as they would come into land. And so I actually took a flight from London Heathrow to London Gatwick via Amsterdam, which was an interesting day. And as I came into land, I could see it. I was like, great, I know it's there.
Yeah.
And then luckily about 2 days later, someone tweeted about it. Having seen it, and then that just exploded. Like, it really, really, really went viral. So
okay, so it actually went viral organically, as opposed to you posting a video about it. It didn't become famous through your channel. It was purely organic. That's really
and there are videos like that I make that often requires that, and those are really nerve-wracking videos because you can do the thing and then no one could care, and then you don't really have the ending to a video. A couple of years ago, I filmed a video where I found that there's a place in the UK called Bell End, and so I erected a statue of Vladimir Putin with a penis for a head to call him the bell end of the year, and I left eggs out for people to throw it at him, and like we just left it there, and like we didn't know whether it would get you, like people found it funny or whether it'd be picked up by the news. It then did, and we had an ending to the story. But often those videos are quite nerve-wracking because you don't really know what's going to happen.
That's brilliant. These are PR stunts, essentially.
Essentially,
do you get brands approaching you to say, "Can you do a stunt for us?" Like, I don't know, Paddy Power. It sounds like a perfect.
Yeah, often, but then it's hugely at loggerheads. I mean, if they've got a lot of budget, then sure, absolutely. Yeah. But it's then it's real at odds with the ethos and the vibe of the channel, right? Yeah. I want to make sure that the audience is feeling like it's not just a billboard at every opportunity, and rather just, a bit of fun that I'm having. We always talk in the office that the ethos of the channel we want to convey is that I would be doing these silly things anyway. I've just got a camera that's following me. So that's the kind of underlying vibe that we want throughout all of the videos.
Yeah. So you said you just turned 30. How about younger content creators that are coming through now? And, if you place yourself back to where you were when you were doing the hospital radio and starting to make first videos, probably different now because the young people coming through are much more digital native in the sense of, a lot of the platforms that were around back then. Any advice you would give to them in terms of how they would build a career as a successful, a sustainable and successful career as a creator?
So I think just start creating, just press published, like make things, or like constantly be making things. But for a few reasons. Firstly, you start to understand what you're good at, like what areas are you strong at. But also it allows you to try ideas and understand what you actually inherently want to do. Like with YouTube, I was making videos for 2 years until I made kind of a single penny. So, and I understood, that led for me to have a passion and understand exactly what I'm doing. You become a real one-man band. And what's amazing is that there is absolutely no gatekeeper at all. If you look at just the sports world, all of the presenters that you're seeing on Sky, or the young guys who are all coming through, guys and girls, all of them make content about football, and that's how they get discovered. So I genuinely don't think there's been a better time to be somebody who wants to get into the creative industries, because it's totally within your power to start making things about things that you care about and that you're passionate about. And I can guarantee you the internet's a big place, that there are creators for everything. There's a huge Dungeons and Dragons YouTube channel that have just signed a huge deal. I don't know much about it, but with a network, and suddenly they're got huge plans for kind of world domination. They're a Dungeons and Dragons YouTube channel because they know there's an audience out there that wants to watch that. Yeah. So whatever you're interested in, just make things as early as possible as well. I was very lucky that I started making things at university because the stakes were so low. Like I could just I didn't have to worry about my peers and be like, oh, what are you up to? I'm working this job, and then 9 to 5, and then going back and making videos. I could just do it because I was at university and I had people around me who were like, yeah, sure, I'll give it a go, I'll help you out. And so, make things as early as you can and make a lot of it and learn every time. Just understand, okay, that was good, that was bad, and try and improve what you're doing just 1% every time. Yeah.
Even the niches on YouTube can be multi-million viewer niches,
hugely. Right? There are people who make millions of dollars a year making slime. Yeah. So there really is a niche for everything.
So tell us about any creators that you've seen recently, anybody that you'd recommend to a TellyCast audience to check out, anybody interesting?
So there's, in the States, there are a couple of people called Preston Goes is fantastic, and Andrew Video. They're both within kind of my niche of silly storytelling, doing something for the sake of it. Preston is more from an engineering perspective, and he recently did a series where he created a trolley that goes on disused railway tracks in the States and just went on this big adventure and a 3-part series, and it was just the closest thing I've seen to it was telly grade entertainment and quality. Preston Goes and Andrew Video in the States, and then from a short form perspective, recently she's been in the news a lot in the last couple of weeks. Zoe Bread, who is a TikTok creator who has had a real tete-a-tete with Manchester Council, and it's just the absolute genesis of storytelling. It's like problem. She got a parking fine in Manchester. She thought she was done wrong, and so protagonist as an antagonist, she's going to get her way. And as a result, it's been incredibly successful. Talking about it on BBC, and she's really getting her flowers at the moment. But I think that it doesn't matter whether it's short form; it's still shifting culture. It's still something that people are talking about. So 3 creators that I love: Zoe Bread, Preston Goes, Andrew Video.
All right, how about you? What's the future hold for you? So we're in May now, nearly halfway through the year. What's the rest of 2025 hold for Max Fosh?
So, for the last year, I've just been so focused on the tour. Did a lot of shows. It took months to prepare for the tour and write the material and try it out. And so, as a result, I really moved away from the YouTube side of things, and that suffered. And so coming back now, it's about, right, let's really back on the grind. Let's really try and head down and just get the reps in with YouTube and make as many videos as I can, whilst also looking at slightly longer thing, maybe how I can serialize some content. I recently did a series where I tried to track down the baby that was born next to me on the 3rd of April 1995, and I eventually found her, a woman called Lily Hunter, who was born on the 3rd of April 95 in St Thomas's Hospital, and we had this weird reunion on our 30th birthday. And so it's about coming up with new format ideas that I can kind of generate into 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 episodes, because then it means I only need to come up with one idea that I can flesh out a little bit more with a bit more time.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to seeing those. And we're going to be seeing you as host of the first TellyCast Digital Video Awards.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm very excited. It's going to be great to see all of the, I mean, there's a lot of kind of the big hitters, the kind of Channel 4s of this world.
The Channel 4s, we've got ITV Studios, we've got Paramount, we've got a lot of the big studios like After Party, we've got Spirit Studios, all of the big dogs in the digital video space. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Well, I'll try and be on my best behaviour.
Yeah. Well, what can they expect then? What are they going to expect? Give us a line of what the audience can expect on the night.
I feel like, I'm just very proud and honoured to have been invited to present it. I can only assume that Munya and Amelia de Moldenberg said no on this occasion. But no, it's going to be a lot of fun. I've got a bit of material, a bit of ribbing of Channel 4s and the ITV studios of this world. So, but nothing too bad.
And now it's time for Story of the Week, where my guests highlight the industry news story that's caught their eye in the past 7 days. Max, what's your story of the week? For
me, I've been watching a lot of the stuff of what YouTube has been saying. YouTube themselves, Neil Mahan, the CEO of YouTube, and YouTube is already the biggest streamed app on TVs. It's bigger than Netflix, bigger than Amazon in terms of watch time. So, but I think YouTube have a real issue of being kind of taken seriously. And so they're doing a real push to get some creators to be nominated for Emmys over in the States. And so there's a few creators of, Sean Evans on Hot Ones, Good Mythical Morning, Michelle Correa, Challenge Accepted. They're kind of collating these 3 creators, and I think a few more, and saying, go on, we'll put the full force of YouTube behind you in terms of budget and clout, and let's get you nominated for Emmys. Let's get you to win Emmys. And so it's been interesting to see YouTube themselves kind of pushing for an element of people being taken serious, or YouTube
acceptance,
really. Yeah, which is kind of what I was talking about earlier with the wanting to be on telly to tell Gran this. I think YouTubers struggle with an element of acceptance and have done for a long time, because I think mainstream haven't quite taken them too seriously. So to hear that from YouTube themselves saying that we want to push for Emmys is really fascinating.
Right. Okay. But then it's not a patch. Emmy isn't a patch on a digital
No,
video.
But we're all show offs. We want the shiny thing on the wall, don't we? We all do, regardless of what people say.
And how about your hero of the week?
Hero of the week is a guy that I've met once before. He's called the Hull Boy, and he's a young lad, maybe 17, 18, and he's running the length of the UK. Obviously, he's been inspired by various people. Recently we've seen a real rise of people in the kind of endurance field documenting their challenges, and the Hardest Geezer last year was incredibly successful and cast a lot of light on this. And so I think Hull Boy has been inspired by this, and he's kind of like 50 days in, or 30, no, he's 35 days. He's got to do it in 50, running the length of the UK. Really young lad, doing it to raise money for mental health. And so it's very cool to see, the real young generation seeing things online and being inspired to do their own versions of that. So he's probably my hero of the week.
Yeah. Great. Well, good luck to him. Is he halfway through?
He's nearly done. I think he's very, very, very nearly done. He's trying to break the record to be the youngest person to do it, and I think there's a time frame that he needs to do it in.
Right.
But he's getting there.
Okay. Well, that's good enough motivation,
Yeah.
I think. And who or what are you telling to get in the bin, Max?
To get in the bin, probably Manchester County Council. I mentioned earlier Zoe Brett and her campaign against Manchester Council, and they have refused to change the parking sign on a road in Manchester, and I think they have finally decided, after a massive media campaign to refund people's parking tickets and also to put up signs telling people where to park in the right place, which sounds incredibly petty saying it out of context, but please watch Zoe Bread's series to get some context. But yeah, probably get in the bin as Manchester County Council.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like they're like post office scandal. It's the parking scandal.
But the silly version of it.
Yeah. Fantastic. Max, thank you so much for coming on TellyCast.
Thanks, Justin.
Can't wait to see you at the Digital Video Awards,
Yeah,
5th of June at the Londoner Hotel. Tickets are still on sale, so you can still get them.
Please come on down.
All right. Okay. Thanks a lot, Max. Well, that's about it for another week's show. Thanks a lot for listening. TellyCast is produced by Spirit Studios and recorded in London. For more videos featuring the movers and shakers of the content industry, just search for TellyCast TV on YouTube and hit subscribe. We'll be back next week with another show. Until then, stay safe.